Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
My name's Zach.
And Craig 5 standing by.
and we might have someone else join us later on in the podcast here. But before we do want to definitely give everyone a warning out there. This is a complete spoiler-filled discussion about Episode 3 of the Acolyte entitled Destiny. So if you haven't seen Episode 3 of the Acolyte Destiny, do not watch this YouTube, Facebook, Twitter extravaganza here, or listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Watch that episode first before you listen/watch us, or do both. So before we get started, though, I want to give the guys some time to collect their thoughts here and maybe have someone else drop by. Want to give a shout out to our awesome top tier Patreon supporters: Hayden Hauser, Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallion. Darth Ace 1 was actually in the chat a while ago. Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Deb McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel, Denver 526, Maya Morris, and Maka Tautala. Thank you so much for all your awesome love and support. And we have Bender on YouTube here saying hi. Lots of laughs.
What's up, Bender?
So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. So, guys, I'll start with Craig 5. He wasn't on the pre-show this time, but he's on the post. What did you think about the Acolyte Episode 3 Destiny? What are your initial thoughts that jump out that maybe...
Okay. All right, here we go. All right. A lot of people are going to hate it. A lot of people are going to hate it. I liked it. I've already heard so many complaints from people online with the first two episodes. I know they're really going to hate where they go with this, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really emotional episode. I know what they're going to complain about. I don't have a problem with it. I think they're obviously trying to open up things about the Force and the way we see the Force and different people being able to use the Force. I don't have a problem with that. It's supposed to be a mystical thing. We don't know everything about it. It's not like the Jedi know everything about it. Even Yoda said they don't even. I mean, I only saw Last Jedi one time. Let me preface it by saying I hate
only once.
Huh?
Only one time?
Opening night in the theater, never again. I can't.
Oh, wow.
So
wow, I didn't know that.
So,
okay.
Yeah, opening night, never again. Okay. And if anybody offers to pay me, the minimum is $25,000 for me to watch it again. The PTSD and the trauma from that movie were horrible. So let me say that, because a lot of the people that hate this probably hate Last Jedi. I hate Last Jedi, but I like this show. I know a lot of people are going to dislike it. I really liked it. I thought it was a very emotional episode. I thought maybe the only struggle with this episode was that the kids' acting felt a little weak at times. I don't want to be too critical of their kids. I thought it was a little, but for the most part, I really liked it.
Okay, interesting.
We'll go into the details, but
yeah. We'll go into the details after Zach and I talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't love it, but probably not for reasons why the world might want to pick it apart. If you're tracking with me, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how specific you want me to get with my answer, David. But it's
just your initial thoughts, your feelings, kind of what jumped out.
Kind of like right before we got on, the two things that I told you. I think I will feel better about this episode personally, depending on how it carries forward, because there were still some things left unanswered. We got some clarity to some things, but I think depending on how we get answers to what we didn't see on screen in certain scenes, I think that'll provide a little bit more clarity to me. And it might, I don't know, I think I lack a little bit of understanding in some areas, but my initial thought is I don't love it, but I don't know. I'm here for it. I'll still be watching it as it comes out. So we can talk more about that, but that's my initial thought.
So are you saying it's like a 5 or a 6?
I'd say like a 5. That's just initial, but maybe the more we talk about it, maybe that'll change. So I guess we'll see.
Bender's, go watch the episode and come back, man.
Yeah, Bender, you really shouldn't watch our broadcast here. You really need to see this episode before we spoil the entire thing. I mean,
you do you, Bender. If you're
yeah,
here, we'll welcome you, but you've been warned.
yeah, you've been warned, man. If you want to stay, that's on you. But definitely you're one of our favorites on
Heavy
YouTube. But
spoilers.
still, I mean, yeah, there's we're gonna talk full blown spoilers. So yeah, Bender says, okay, I'll be right back. So we all know that this episode had a lot of controversy and a lot
Yeah.
of speculation, and a lot of people online today were like, oh boy, let's brace ourselves for the impact of episode 3 of the Acolyte that it's gonna have. And so many videos are made by different podcasters and influencers and YouTube channels. All the negative channels said this is going to ruin Star Wars, and I mean, just kind of paraphrasing them. But to me, I think I'm in Craig's camp. I did like it for what it was. I like the kind of world and notion building on top of what we think the Force is. But I mean, of course, there's other groups out there in the galaxy and the universe that are going to interpret the Force differently. I mean, it's like a different civilization. It's like if you had our Earth and there's another Earth out there, there's going to be a different history and a different belief system, probably. I mean, different religions. I mean, I thought that whole fact with the thread was really interesting, and the whole birth not via a father mother type situation. I mean, that they're just taking from religion that we have on Earth. I mean, it's the same kind of concept.
I mean,
It's
Anakin.
kind of yeah. I mean, yeah, Anakin. I mean, we all know about Darth Plagueis, how he could create life. He could manipulate the midichlorians. So this, I mean, what does that say about Mother Anastasia? I mean, I liked what they did in the episode. Like Craig, as soon as he saw the twins, I think a lot of us know that there are 2 actual actors there that are twins acting side by side. And of course, I mean, you're going to have trouble. Well, in the Hollywood system, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of twin kid actors out there, but to find actors that look like Amandla Stenberg, who was primarily cast.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fault the acting. Of course, I want to be sensitive to the whole
for sure
child actor situation, but I mean, I like the story overall. Going back to the comment here, Noah Richard on YouTube says mid episode this week the acting was subpar in many places, and that ascension scene was sus. I thought it was fine. I mean, this is TV. This is I didn't think that. Did you suspect any parts of it? The acting was not up to snuff at all.
No,
I mean, what particular scene, Noah? What particular actors?
I thought the acting was pretty solid overall, and I'm glad that someone brought up. I think it was BioSilk here brought up sort of the twins, different kid actresses. I think they must be.
Yeah, they're 2 separate people. Yeah,
because I brought that up last week, and I think it was kind of presumed to be lighting because you see them for 10 seconds standing next to each other. You don't really get a lot of time to look at that. I'm just glad my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, I guess. Moral of that story.
Yeah,
I think like one of the acting scenes that I thought was a little weird was when the mother was talking and they were fighting behind her. And
that felt relatable, dude, because that's me and my brother. You know what I mean? If we were in something like that, but it didn't. It
didn't feel like authentic. Like
right.
yes,
sure, it wasn't natural,
but it felt like forced.
Yeah,
that
pun intended.
Housing is like is in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's in the moment, so it's hard to reenact that.
And I was definitely distracted from what the mothers were talking about in terms of the lesson because I was kind of focusing on that. I don't know. I'm like, if I see a shiny coin, right, you'll have my attention. That's just me. I don't know if people felt the same way about that scene as well.
Does that also work with a stormtrooper?
Don't test me, Craig. Yeah, it would.
Well, I really love the fact that the episode was a straight up flashback episode, and we went back to Brendok, the twins' home planet.
Yeah,
we got to kind of see the young 4 Jedi involved: Sol, Kelnaka, Indara, and Torben. It looked like Torben's face was affected in that.
Yeah,
and it feels like they actually didn't show the Jedi perspective of the incident. It almost feels like the Jedi were responsible of all those deaths for the witches. That's how I kind of perceive it.
I don't know.
I think that's how they want to set it up.
Like I thought it was like that the stuff had fallen from the ceiling.
I don't think so.
Like where all the dead bodies were?
Yeah.
I think they were all outside.
Parts of concrete near them.
So we all know from episode 2, Torben took the bearish vow, and then he came to 10 years later, and he drank the poison because
Yeah.
they did something. So I think they killed the witches. I think that's kind of apparent. I think they went through and had to kill them. I think we're going to see another flashback from a different point of view and see Mother Anastasia use the Force against them. And of course, the Jedi had to defend, and in turn, they killed that entire coven, essentially.
Okay. All right. Well, what did you think about May, like, trying to kill Osha?
I think May just leans towards the dark side. I mean, that's just who she is.
He was really trying to kill her there, right? Like, you guys both agree with that, right?
She kind of just...
Right. I think it's just one of those situations where she does love her sister, she does love her family, but she just goes to the extreme. I mean, she almost killed that.
Like, if you leave me, I'd rather you die than you leave.
Right. So she definitely has some psychosis there. Right, and at the very there was that butterfly / bird that she didn't want to let go. And Osha had to scream at her to let it go. So yeah, she's very much tilted to the dark side there.
Did you guys see any lightsaber cuts on the dead bodies on the ground?
That's, I assumed it was like some part of the explosion or something.
But when Osha was running in that tunnel, when she hotwired the door or whatever, you heard a boom, right?
Maybe you heard when she was going through the tunnel, you heard like the witches like scream, or
maybe it was like a big force bang, like someone just, like Force Unleashed type vibes, like you just kind of, I don't know.
Well, something on that walkway caused the walkway to be broken in two.
Yeah.
So some kind of explosion must have caused that. Obviously, I think we'd see the details a little bit better the second time through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I didn't get the feeling that the Jedi had killed everybody. But you guys are probably onto something, because why else would Torben take the poison?
Yeah,
we didn't see Kalnaka really involved in anything after that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so Noah Richer on YouTube says, thus far, the show hasn't been nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. At the least, it's going to be better than Book of Boba Fett.
I mean, I agree. I mean, listen, I really liked the idea of a show about Boba Fett, and I liked Tamura and Ming, but the writing was just not there, and the story didn't make a lot of sense for me.
Right, yeah.
The only episode I go back and watch is the Grogu and Luke episode.
Yeah, I mean, the expectation of the fans that had for the Book of Boba Fett, it just wasn't there. We thought we were going to get, like...
that biker gang, oh, man.
We thought we were going to get one of those that reintroductory episode of The Mandalorian where we get Boba Fett back wearing his armor again on Python. We thought we were going to get that Boba Fett, and we didn't, unfortunately.
It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't want to go into the Book of Boba Fett. Let's focus on... I know a lot of people are going to hate the show. I could already see it coming. But I liked it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's interesting. It's unique. It feels like Star Wars. It feels like they're expanding on the different parts to the Force and the universe. And, it felt interesting that the Jedi were like, nope, nobody gets to use the Force without us. Like, hold on, what's going on here? That was like a different perspective on like how the Jedi operated. That was interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of nefarious how Sol was out there in the woods spying on the twins. I mean, what their directive was, we don't know, but hopefully we find out. Did they, I mean, for all we know, I mean, could these four actually may have decided to turn on the Jedi? Maybe there's some underlying factor there that we don't know, where they're kind of acting outside of the Jedi code. So, I mean, I mean, there's still... Just like Leslie Headland said, this is an onion, and we're going to peel back layers, and we're going to find out, I think, each episode something new and different. It's going to add more to the story that we just, I mean, we're all kind of speculating on right now. But yeah, I thought overall the episode was really good. I think I kind of agree with Noah Richer here on YouTube. He said Coral felt forced the entire episode to me. Not the entire episode, but as far as the acting goes for that actress, I think it was okay. I mean, I believe she was a Zabrak, right? She was Darth
Yeah, she
Maul's
must
race.
have been.
Like
Yeah,
Darth Maul.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting that
was-
they did reveal that she carried the twins. That was
Yeah.
interesting. I thought it was going to be Mother Anastasia, and I think going into it, I don't know if it was leaks or StarWars.com released it on the databank or what, but I think it was kind of hinted at that Mother Anastasia was the mother of the twins. And I think if you go back and look at the TV spot and you know the fact that Osha or May is behind the other witches, you can actually go back and see that if you look closely and see her hiding. And you can also see the ring on her head as well. So everyone out there on chat here, we have about 200 people watching us. Type your thoughts, type your questions. What do you think about episode 3 of the Acolyte?
If you don't start speaking up, David starts taking clothes off, and we don't need that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So yeah, if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, let us know what you think. We all know this is going to be very much talked about tonight and well into tomorrow and probably the rest of the week. But I think there's really nothing that controversial. I mean, this is basically world building. Okay, what's controversial?
The whole idea of the Force and that the witches created life, like, you know.
But we knew that in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I feel like people are going to be angry about that it was like, well, how did they all of a sudden learn how to do this and the Jedi didn't, or you know what I mean? I just think that's where the controversy is. And
yeah, I'd say that's fair. I can get behind that because I was trying to play through the talk Palpatine had with Anakin about Darth Plagueis, so why's in my head to like call from memory what I could remember. Like, he was so, like, I believe he says that he was so strong in the dark side he could create life,
use the
manipulate.
Yeah.
So
dying.
I mean, there's, based on that line, I mean, it seems like it's obviously some sort of dark magic equivalent to what's going on with Plagueis or how that happened. But the witches were kind of like, oh, people think what we're doing is dark, right? Did I hear that line in the show? Did you guys remember that?
Yeah, they said something. Maybe they used the word unnatural. Did they say
maybe? And Palpatine says that some consider it to be unnatural. You know, fair.
I think they were trying to tie that together. Fair. I thought I said unnatural, but I might be wrong there.
Yeah. Like the idea of like the Force conception like that, like I don't, you know, that's not new in Star Wars. That's something we've seen before. Well, it's been talked about a little bit. There hasn't been as much in-depth details we got today, I would say.
Sure.
We have some comics, you know, and a little bit of lore behind it, but like, you know, I don't think it's weird to say like the twins looked more like the mother that we see on the poster. Her name's escaping me at the moment, but she didn't carry the twins, right? So like,
she made them though,
right? So there's more that goes into that.
It may be somehow her midichlorians go into the dark magic or something.
Yeah, for sure. And that might be looking into it a little too far, but it's interesting to think about like, oh, they look more like one versus the other, but the other carried, and however you want to look at that.
I mean, there's Star Wars now. I mean, there's witches in Ahsoka, there's witches in Clone War.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's interesting. I mean, well, you know, are we going to see the same thing over and over again? Like, I'm open to, as long as they don't try and do too much with it. I think it's interesting.
What I thought was interesting, because I was playing back a lot of Phantom Menace similarities. I'm sure you guys were a little bit too, when like they take the blood sample from Osha. Okay, that happened to Anakin. Ow, you know, what was that? Don't worry about it. It's a blood sample. And then they do, you know, Soul's holding the sign, and I told my wife, right. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, a cup, a speeder, you know, like that's kind of what was going through my head. But I'm like, hold on a second.
Did one of those images look like Bespin to you?
Yeah, I thought it was like a floating station. I was hoping she'd call it what it was so that I knew what you call those things. But I was playing a lot of comparisons over in my head that we see with this episode of the Acolyte and the Phantom Menace, like Anakin going through the process of going through a similar test or the same test, maybe. What I thought was interesting though is, you know, May and geez, sorry, it's
May and
late.
Osha?
I'm dying. May and Osha are sisters, and they're attached to both of their mother figures. But the Jedi are like, yeah, who cares? You might have a ton of attachment, but we want both you guys to be Jedi. And then Anakin's with his mom. And they're like, hold on, you're too old. You're too attached. We don't want to take you. But then the Jedi don't raise any flags about that during this test. Now, they didn't go to the council. You know, the council is who brought that up to Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan after Anakin was brought in. So maybe the council would have thought differently, right? But I thought that was a very interesting parallel, but it kind of veered a different way. Like, oh yeah, this boy's too old. You know, I'd argue that May and Osha are similar ages to how old Anakin was when he got
Yeah,
pulled in.
Yeah, what you just said there, Zach, I definitely think that does lend to the fact that there's other stuff going on that we're not into yet. And I mean, are they working outside of the order? I mean, what is this? Is this like a side mission to the primary directive? I mean, do they come across the twins and say, "Oh my gosh, Soul's like, I can sense that these kids are powerful, and I'm gonna take one of those as my Padawan." And he does by the end of the episode. So
and that's
they were at least implying that they wanted to test them and give them the choice, right? They force them, but I felt like they're trying to say we want them to test and then give them the choice.
Right. And I really like that whole sequence. What were we gonna say, Zach?
Oh, well, I guess I'm kind of thinking back. Didn't Obi-Wan say something to Qui-Gon like, isn't he too old? The council will never approve of this when he's on the ship on the outskirts of Mos Espa. Or Mos Eisley. Sorry, I might be getting those mixed up.
I think he said it on Coruscant when they were walking to the ship.
Yeah, I guess something like that. So I thought it was a little interesting how that really wasn't brought up at all. Maybe it will be down the road, and that's kind of why I said at the beginning, the more context we get to certain things as these episodes carry on, maybe my opinion of this episode will change. And it's probably more geared towards what I just said on why I'm a little foggy about it, because it kind of, you see a lot of similarities with May and Osha and Anakin being separated from parental figure and having that attachment, being older, but like showing signs of immense force power, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how old May and Osha were in this episode, and then it kind of goes two different ways, which is fine. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for everyone watching us here on StreamYard, don't forget to hit the like button on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. So just a reminder. But what were we going to say, Craig?
I think one of the things that George actually got wrong about the Jedi is that, as a therapist, trauma is very powerful. And when you're separated, given up for adoption, it causes massive amounts of trauma in people. Okay? And my supervisor, who had over 40 years experience, who was brilliant, she had many years with working with adoption and taught me a lot about adoption and mental health. And, people that are taken away from their family have massive amounts of trauma. And so I think, George obviously isn't a therapist, but the attachment trauma of being taken away and even taken a Jedi, I think it would cause a lot. I think you'd see a lot more Anakins than honestly. So I think maybe that's just a fail on the Jedi to take people away from their family, because that trauma is so overwhelmingly painful that it can cause personality disorders and splitting and multiple personalities and stuff like that, which is, in my theory, I think that's what happened to Anakin. He split when his mother died in his arms. That's a whole nother story, though.
Yeah.
But this whole theme of being taken away from your caregivers, it would cause serious mental health issues. And it does. I mean, if you look over history and see what happens with people.
I totally agree with that.
I think that it would be great if they had some clinicians that specialize in attachment trauma working on these themes about Jedi and being removed from families and stuff.
Yeah, on the very first Star Wars, A New Hope, 1977, I don't think any doctors were really consulted, but I do know on The Empire Strikes Back, that doctors were consulted
Yes.
due to the fact that we were going to get the big all-time cinematic
Deal,
reveal that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and how kids would react to that.
yeah.
So I do remember the therapists were contacted. So
Yeah. But now that we're having a lot more clarity on attachment trauma, that's really what causes mental health issues, is a trauma. And when you're very small, especially in those first 2 to 3 years of life, when you don't bond with your caregivers, and so being taken away would cause so much overwhelming trauma. You would see a lot more people that are like Anakin, like, unpredictable, unstable, angry, like that. Then I think calm and like relaxed, like an Obi-Wan. So I do think Star Wars needs to look into exploring that a little bit more.
yeah,
I also thought it was interesting how maybe I'm remembering this wrong. When the 4 Jedi showed up during the middle of their like ascension ceremony, and they're like, "We don't take kids. We want to give them a choice." I'm like, "Hold on a second. Is that 100% true?" I'm not saying like they kidnap kids, but like obviously a kid has to be a certain age to make the choice for themselves, right?
Point.
And we know they definitely.
And how could a 4-year-old make that decision?
Right. And or younger, right? Even we see kids in the Clone Wars that are force sensitive that are being targeted by the Jedi, and Cad Bane comes in and scoops them up before the Jedi can beat them
Yep.
there. Like, so who's making that call at that point?
And that's a great point. Yes, because I have a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old can't even, get chocolate milk out of the refrigerator, let alone make a decision where she's
Sure. Yeah.
for the rest of her life, and that she's never going to see her family again. They can't even understand that concept.
Yeah.
right.
Understand the concept of forever. A 6, you know what I mean? Or a 4-year-old, a 3, they don't understand forever. That's an abstract thought. They don't understand that thinking yet. So yeah, that's a great point. But that's again what I'm kind of talking about with Jedi taking kids when they're so young.
Yeah.
That if they were older, that they would be. Actually, it makes me feel like if they had a more stable childhood home, and then they were older when they were taken, they would be better off than if they were younger.
Sure. And I guess that idea, maybe I'd assume it's intentional in the writing. Maybe we saw in episode 2, I believe, where the Jedi were trying to cover up a few things, like, oh, if this gets out, like we could be in some deep trouble. And maybe they want to give the mindset to people who are outsiders of the Jedi Order that the Jedi don't come in and take your kids, when in reality, if the situation really benefits the Jedi, they'll persuade hard to, I'm trying to find the right word, like bring a child to the order. I don't know,
Recruitment
maybe,
process.
yeah, recruitment process. Maybe they're being more sneaky about it than we realize, because there's more to it than meets the eye with what's going on with these specific 4 Jedi that seem to be the target.
Yeah,
Maybe that's something that caused the Jedi to have their issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the way that they were training things.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully they start to explore stuff like that, because it's interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like Star Wars when it feels like family, like about family and trauma and the relationship dynamics, and a little bit of a fairy tale component to it.
Same here. So Celestial Air on YouTube has a lot of comments for us here. They say they liked it. I feel like they answered some questions, but there's still a lot to be answered. That's exactly how I feel about it. Looks like
Me
I
too.
activated Siri here on my laptop. Celestial Air also says, could that mean that Plagueis could have learned from the witches how to create life?
I was thinking about that too.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It would
I didn't think.
Timeline.
Yeah, it's on time. But I didn't really
know who the mysterious figure is. Is it possible that it's Plagueis?
Yeah, there's still so many questions like that to be kind of everything. Still needs to
Anybody
be
think it is Plagueis?
What if it's? We talked about this a little in the post show. I think we're both kind of leaning towards no.
Yeah, because I mean, Plagueis is immune traditionally.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to change
fit
that.
in the helmet. But at the same time, what if there's potential for this? A Mew? Oh, get out of here! Stop it. I fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker, Craig. Well done. So, what if this potential Sith or the mass figure we see with the red lightsaber, what if that was some sort of outcast or reject from this
And it's not
cult,
even a Sith. It's like, yeah. I mean, you could make that. I mean, the
right?
only male figure. I mean, maybe that figure infiltrated the witch coven, and
Yeah.
maybe that figure taught Mother Anastasia how to use the Force.
Hmm.
Maybe that figure sensed it in her. But I mean, it seems like Mother Anastasia is pretty powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
she had
But I
her
wonder how
people.
she died, if she was so powerful, right? Like,
She
kind
went up
of
against 4 trained Jedi,
allegedly,
or 3. I
and
guess you
right?
could say 3 masters and a Padawan. Yeah.
Yeah. You could, yeah. And I don't know. I hope they show what happened. I want to see that confrontation, unless it was like someone planting a charge and running. I don't know. Right now I could,
And I don't think would plant the charge.
no, unless they're trying to, I guess
Yeah,
I think of
something goes
Barris.
wrong,
Barris
and
bombed the Jedi Temple because she
yeah,
was going against the Jedi, right? Maybe, I don't know. Possibilities are endless as of right now until we get more
yeah.
They're
answers.
going to obviously paint the Jedi to be pretty
Shady.
in some way,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I agree.
we've got to see the downfall of the Jedi and what's causing it,
Well, it's the
Yeah.
downfall of the High Republic,
Hmm.
because this is the end years of the High Republic.
Yeah.
So
Something causes it, right? So
right,
Yeah.
you would
the,
think.
the Jedi have to have their flaws and weaknesses for all the good and good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Celestial Air also on YouTube says, "Did the Jedi kill them, provoked or unprovoked?" I think they killed them provoked. I think it was maybe in a self-defense. Maybe there's an accident.
Who was the one witch that was like Darth Maul? If anything, she would have instigated it.
yeah. Mother
Yeah.
Coral. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anything, she probably started something with the Jedi being hot-headed, and then maybe the Jedi defended themselves or something.
Yeah.
Maybe the mother was trying to protect May when and so May was able to get.
And not necessarily that
see that.
there needed to be lightsabers defending them in self-defense. We see that Jedi are more than capable to defend themselves without a lightsaber, but we didn't hear any lightsaber hums, while Osha was running down below. We didn't see any marks. Maybe zoom and enhance, there could be some of that if we go back and look.
Maybe we'll see a guy's leg with jeans.
That'll get edited out. That won't make it. That won't last a week. But yeah, I don't. Man, there's still a lot. There were some answered questions, but I think there are a lot more questions that I have now. Peeling it back, David, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. No Richer on YouTube says, "Do y'all think May and Osha might be the reason that the Order set up boundaries on attachment and age requirements to become a Jedi?" We just talked about that.
I think that was already before, but maybe. I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'd assume that like attachment is forbidden.
Because if the Jedis have been around for, how many generations at this point?
1,000 generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
900
Well, and you hear
generations.
And I think Elzar Mann, who I think likes Avar Chris in the books, like they talk about how attachment's not really allowed. Like that's been talked about in those books previously.
Yep. And Qui-Gon kind of figured out that no, that you should probably love, as Dave Filoni explained in that one video. I think it was in the gallery episode actually. For Mando.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
Yeah. Celestial Air on YouTube says, "Could someone think that Osha is chosen one because she may have been created by the Force, have no father?" No, I think it's definitely Anakin still. I don't think they'll ever change that. But
maybe that's what's going to make everybody so angry.
I wonder what the blood sample results are, though, right? Because the blood sample, Obi-Wan's like, holy crap, Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high. This is crazy. Like, I wonder what the blood samples
it's half
showed them.
Like twins.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
So Mob Rules is watching us on YouTube. A solid 7.5 out of 10 for me. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I hear people talking about the acting. But I mean, I kind of look past that and just kind of look at the story and how
Yeah.
that kind of unfolded. And I liked what I got from the story. I liked the galaxy building there and the force building. I mean, that there's another little kind of differentiation between what we know about the force with the Jedi and this abstract witch coven that's out there that refers to it as the thread, and the
And
thread
you
connects
could
all.
see the
thread.
Could you?
And
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And she had like a ball kind of, right?
So
Yeah.
there's like a planet out there too that looks like it has a thread as well, almost like an eclipse or like rings around a planet or
It
something.
was like this, and then on top, and then around it, and then on the bottom. But maybe we went through it. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, we got to go back through and look. Maybe a black hole in Star Wars. Noah Richard on YouTube says the mask figure could be Mother Anastasia. In that clip released before the show came out, we see the masked figure going against the power of many Jedi, like she was demonstrating to the girls. Yeah, that is a potential.
I actually thought it was the other one.
I would agree with that, Craig. I wouldn't think it would be Mother Anastasia, just mainly because of how she was like, put your weapons down. Like,
Yeah.
unless, people have moments in their lives that traumatize them to change their trajectory. So
Yeah.
like maybe, but I'm leaning more towards what you said, Craig. That's where my
I
thoughts
can't
go.
remember her name, but I thought if anything, it would have been her. I don't think it's her, but that if it had to be one
Coral?
Yeah.
Coral?
Mother Coral.
Like
Coral?
Underwater coral?
Yeah, kind of like that, but I think it's spelled differently.
Koril?
Yes.
I'm just looking at Noah's comment here in the chat to reference that, but
yeah, just in case for people watching us, we got over 200 people watching. If you turn on the closed captioning, you can see all the spelling of all the names, and I think that's how people found out about OSHA as opposed to May in the marketing. So yeah, I'm going back through looking for the Coral stuff.
Coral felt a little bit hot-headed, like
what are you doing outside of the boundary of the city or whatever, right? Because that's how she first marched up to them was and I thought she was a Jedi. I don't know.
It's almost like she has the Mandalorian design from a chess piece.
I thought that too. The little because like they have that same pattern in like their architecture and stuff. But yeah, I thought the same thing.
I have to go back and watch and look for the details. The first time you're just trying to like enjoy the story and let it unfold.
Yeah.
I thought it was an emotional story. I felt like it was an emotional episode. I don't know if many people will agree, but for me it was.
Yeah.
And taking kids away from their family and watching May turn get so angry that she was gonna kill her sister. I mean, it seemed to me like that was what she was trying to do there. Do you guys both agree with that? She was trying to kill her.
Yeah, I mean, she said it too. She's like, I'd kill you so that you don't leave. But
and then she lit the fire and she threw it in front of the door, like purposely.
A question that I just had brought up in my head is why would OSHA be so hell-bent on wanting to join the Jedi and then leave?
She felt like she clearly was frustrated by this feeling forced to have to do everything like her sister did. Well, the sister wanted nothing but to be close to her. And the other one was like, no, I want alone time. I want to be by myself. I don't want to do everything that you have to do.
Maybe I worded that wrong. I mean, why did she want to push so hard to be a Jedi? But then when we see her in the present day of the story, she's not part of the Jedi.
Too angry about it, and too hurt.
Yeah. Because you'd think that would fall under May more so than her. Which is probably why initially fingers were pointed at her for thinking that she was killing the Jedi. Maybe because she's had some sort of, I don't know if an episode is the right word, but like something to give them reason to believe that she would be capable of killing these Jedi.
I think that's just her personality. That's just that
Yeah.
archetype. I mean, I love what the Acolyte as a whole is doing with all of these different types of personalities and archetypes. From, if you watch this on the pre-show, we talked about who our favorite characters were so far, and I talked about Yord. I've seen that person living my life by the book,
Yeah. me
very
too.
like prim and proper and ironing their I mean to a T. I mean, I've seen that person before. It makes sense. I've
Yeah.
also seen the person that loves like to the extreme but has that psychosis and wants to kill. I've seen that person too. I mean, I
Mm.
just
Mirror,
love what they're doing. What's that?
I said in the mirror.
I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, unfortunately, I've seen those people living life too. I mean,
Yeah.
I just love like all the archetypes that they're using. It makes a lot of sense to me. That's why I think I like the Acolyte more than a lot of people. Celestial Air also on YouTube again. I don't think that it would change that it is Anakin. I guess the chosen one prophecy. But could someone think that it is her? They still have the prophecy. They would. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the prophecy is still there. Could maybe that be the reason why they're kind of being sneaky with it? That Osha's being kind of like the Jedi, the four Jedi are acting kind of different and maybe breaking Jedi code with
Yeah.
these twins,
Maybe.
possibly. That's a good theory. I mean, that's interesting.
I wonder if it'll get brought up though throughout the rest of the show. You know what I mean? Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility and a solid theory, but we'll see if that gets mentioned. And maybe they want to stay away from the whole chosen one ideology, but maybe not.
Yeah, and everyone new that's watching us, we actually do have a bingo card. So if that comes to pass, there is a spot for that. So yeah, check out our social media, Star Wars Stuff Pod on Instagram, at Stuff Pod on Twitter,
Or
and
any of
play.
these.
That's for sure too. And one of them is the free space.
The free space. And
So you
Matt,
said there's two on here aside from the free
Matt
space.
No, including the free space. I'd say
Okay.
one.
Yeah, one so far.
One.
I mean, if they could reference the rule of two still. I mean, everyone's kind of crossing their fingers for Yarl Poo, Fobo Rancis is the old school prequel Jedi Council there. But yeah, if they talk of the prophecy, that's another spot there. And in case you are new to our bingo card, if you hit a natural bingo, of course, just let us know. Whoever lets us know first, as everything's timestamped, so you'll win whatever Acolyte prize we decide to give out. And it's usually something pretty cool. I mean, it's worthwhile to play. Last time for Ahsoka, we gave out her Hasbro Pulse Black Series lightsaber. So yeah, it's going to be something of pretty decent value. So yeah, screenshot this or just go to our social media, Star Wars Stuff Podcast or Star Wars Stuff Pod on Instagram and Stuff Pod on Twitter.
So I got a comment from our friend of the show, Brian.
Okay.
And he said that he thought it was an excellent episode. And his only complaint or question is, how did all the witches die?
Yeah.
Did the Jedi kill them all? He thinks that was what was implied. He's tuning in late. We've been talking about that. I'd like to hear what people think. What did you guys? Because I thought it was the explosion, but I was kind of like looking for the rubble around the witches, and
yeah, and that's probably what they want you to think.
It makes more sense that it would have been the Jedi.
Yeah,
it does make sense in the sense to the story of why May is so angry at the Jedi.
Yeah, what if that, like, the masked figure that we see, you know, on the posters and the trailers, and like was there and was, you know, responsible for the death and was able to frame it on the Jedi, but we haven't seen the Jedi deny it. And then the Jedi who was meditating was like, there was some, or I thought it was a good idea at the time, or however he worded it. I thought we were doing the right thing. Like, what is he referencing? Is he referencing killing the witches is he
It has to
referencing
be.
taking? Well, is he referencing taking OSHA or being part of that? Right? I don't know. Maybe we'll see that OSHA joining the Jedi Order blows up in their faces harder than we realize.
Yeah, when I saw them laying down like that, I was like thinking, did they just breathe in fumes or something? Was it like a carbon monoxide type thing? Because we didn't see injury.
But I
the blue shadow virus.
I think we're going to see more, for sure, and that will be explained more. But it's we're left to kind of ponder.
Yeah, I like how Celestial Air on YouTube is adding to this. Maybe someone could think that it is her being the chosen one, which when proven that it is not, could lead to some of the skepticism when Qui-Gon comes in with his Anakin theory. So Master Soul, I think he's being compared a lot to a Qui-Gon type figure. Maybe like better like Force Fu and lightsaber skills. I don't know. Better than Qui-Gon. But, I mean, he feels like the Qui-Gon figure of this show. And, like, I think I said earlier in the podcast here, he could maybe think that this is the chosen one. And, of course, be proven wrong eventually. But, I mean, he could maybe have that feeling. That's why he was kind of, like running tree to tree, spying on the kids, so...
And why was it just him that we saw? You know, was he veering off of what the other Jedi were doing? Were I don't know. I'd imagine that Kalnaka can't hide behind a tree as well as Soul. So maybe that's why Soul was out there. But I don't know. Why do you never see a Wookiee hiding in a tree? Because they're really good at it. I don't know. Like there's always that possibility. But maybe they were with him. Maybe he was by himself.
I really like the fact that Kalnaka sounded like pretty much like Chewie.
Yeah.
Sounded very classic Wookiee.
The side of his head, like right here, shaved.
It looked like it was shaved.
That? I thought so too. It was interesting.
Was it like that in the scene we see him in episode 2?
Tight. Either it was pulled so tight that it looked like it was shaved.
I think it was shaved, and he had like markings in his scalp. That's what it looked like to me.
In the episode 2, when we see him briefly, or like just recently?
No, tonight. Yeah,
okay.
Episode 3.
I didn't pick up on the markings, but I definitely, it looked like a shaved Muppet kind of.
I have to look closer at it, but I was like, wait, is his head shaved too? Like,
maybe he's an inspiration for Coyote Mundi there. I never know.
Or he's committing to the like barista man bun vibe. I don't know.
So Noah Richer on YouTube has something to point out here. The witches appeared to be in the Pantheon when Soul and Osha come across their bodies, so falling rubble would make sense. Although you'd think they'd be able to divert it. Yeah, I mean, Mother Anastasia has the Force. I mean, she could just Force push stuff. So something happened. We're gonna find out in the future. It just we gotta wait to find out that information. Unless it happens.
The worst.
Unless you want to go on social media and be spoiled for episode 4.
For some reason, maybe it was me. I thought the fire happened in the woods.
I think that's just something you probably assumed. I never heard like a wood fire. But I mean, it was strange how she set the book on fire and then it seemed like whatever the walls were made of. It seemed like concrete. I mean, in Star Wars is a concrete flammable. I mean, we're still talking about fire here in the Acolyte, so
why it was a little odd to me, like why a fire like that in a cement type environment would light. But who knows? It's hard to know. I mean,
it's just one of those things. I don't think it's so much of suspension of disbelief. It's just you don't know what that material is made of, and maybe that was just like a story point where they're like, well, I mean, it's Star Wars. It's okay. I mean, it's because I mean, concrete can't really burn, right? I mean,
but I mean, we're in a different universe, so
right. So yeah, you kind of have to probably let that go. But of course, people are probably going to make videos of it and possibly mock it. I don't know. Stay on the fire theme because people had so much like issue and trouble with seeing the fire in outer space when Osha looked at it. It's like, come on, guys. Fire's been in space in Star Wars since the beginning.
Like literally Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, like the Death Star.
Any explosion in space for Star Wars is
come on. You can't
combustion.
If you're gonna complain about something, at least
have something really good to complain about. Like the guy appearing behind Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar. If hit the right frame. Have you seen that?
Yes, I
That's
have.
wild. It's like
when
some
they're in the
random
lava
guy.
river.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's come up
Yes.
recently on the internet, that it's like if you pause it just right, there's some
Yeah.
just guy like chest up. You can just see him behind
Yeah.
Hayden
Is
Christensen.
lava miner?
No, it looks like
No, it's like
just
a
random Jimmy.
it's like a
some
CGI
random
artist
dude.
or something.
Well, in that same, a little before that sequence when Hayden gets out of the starfighter on Mustafar, wherever they filmed it, obviously not Mustafar. When he pulls his hood up, he didn't put the glove on for his mechanical hand, but we don't need to point out the I don't know, edits or whatever in Star Wars. But anyway, I don't know, Craig. I think Gene Guy made an appearance this week. We just got to find him.
He's
there.
It's
He's totally there.
Mean Gene caused that fire. He killed the guy.
All right, so N Roberts 479 on YouTube says, "I wonder why the witches were so afraid of the Jedi being there, and why they feared the twins exposed to the Jedi. There's definitely more to the story of the events leading up to this episode."
I mean, I thought, to me, it was implied that you're not allowed to train people in the Force like they were. It was against the law, and so the Jedi were coming to find out what was going on there.
And I'm shocked the Jedi kept their cool as much as they did. Like, I don't know, if they're space cops, like if I get pulled over by a cop, why would I not be honest about what's going on? Like, yes, I was speeding, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm a little too honest. That's just my personality. But like, I'm shocked the Jedi didn't flip out on the fact that they lied about hiding the kids. Because like they were super calm about it. Wouldn't you say? I mean,
well, the Jedi are supposed to be like more calm by nature. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Get the best of them, and
Sure.
they are there from their perspective to, see if these Force sensitive kids want to go with them. So maybe that happens to the Jedi on a fairly regular basis. They come for kids, and families are like, no, stay away.
Yeah. So fair.
That'd be like pulling somebody over for speeding all the time for them. They go to find kids.
Yeah.
And so they're using that. That's routine for them.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Witches this time.
Right.
And I found the picture, Craig. If you want to see it here, I'll put it up on the screen of the guy.
No,
some random guy, probably a worker at ILM or Lucasfilm, behind Anakin Skywalker, like torso up in the lava of Mustafar.
Oh, I like that guy. He's like, hey.
That's Gene Guy's older brother who worked on the prequels.
That's an embodiment of the Force.
Dude, that's like you see it in cartoons. You have the good angel and the devil or whatever sitting on your shoulder, like sitting and talking. He's like, jump over him.
Exactly. That's the Force going into the lava and coming out as get him. Dark side. And the lava.
You might be onto something, Zach. He is on the left shoulder, so the left is typically the evil side.
Jump, do it. Jump. Do it. But yeah, in that sequence, that's not when he jumps over on the hill. That's when he jumps and Obi-Wan swings at his legs and he misses and does like but
and Roberts 479 on YouTube says that doesn't make sense.
Like with the cop analogy or with
I mean, Star Wars to me, it's all about the humanities. And if people don't understand that, I mean, that's what George Lucas concentrated on, and that's how he designed Star Wars. He was deep in the anthropology, and it was all about the humanities and where people interacted with each other throughout human history. And and Roberts 479 on YouTube says yes, lots of laughs. So
all right. I guess I'm not crazy. Appreciate it.
All right, so so we've talked about it a little bit. So what are your guys' scores for this episode 3? And do you remember your episodes 1 and 2 scores?
I gave an 8 for both.
I think I did too.
Both the episodes. And I would say an 8 again also. And I might almost go an 8.5, but to me, the acting, and I have to watch it again, but like when the girls were fighting behind each other, that felt a little bit fake. It didn't feel authentic to me. Like I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I see that all day long. So just You know what I mean? It just felt like it should have been a little bit different. And the acting just fell, and I'm not trying to bash them because they're kids, but just felt not great in some scenes.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really liked it. It's not perfect, but
yeah.
For a third episode and moving the story along, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I was worried I was gonna hate it like Last Jedi. I really
So you will watch episode 3 again then?
Yes.
Okay.
I will watch episode 3 again.
Zach, what do you rate it?
I think I signed off last week before I gave an episode rating, but I think I'm kind of with Craig. I'd give episodes 1 and 2 like an 8, a good hearty 8. It just, I don't know. That was good. This week, I think I'm going to stick with my 5, but I'd give it a soft 5 because the more questions that get answered, the better that'll look in hindsight to me. And if I rewatch it knowing more, going back to it. So it's kind of tough when people ask what you think of a TV show. And I'm like, dude, it's not all out yet. I can't really give you my full opinion until it's all out.
To be an emotional episode, Zach.
Did I what?
Did you find it to be emotionally moving for you?
Kinda. I think I was a little blinded by the fact that I'm like, dude, this is kind of like rinse and repeat of the beginning of the Phantom Menace, but like, why are they not giving her the same red flags that they gave to Anakin? And I think I was really focused on that to where I really couldn't focus on the emotional aspect of that, to be honest with you guys. So I'd say there was a lot of emotional elements there. Did I cling to them a lot? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean like I tried to avoid it, if that makes sense. But there were definitely really cool emotional elements in that episode that I really liked, like with Soul talking to Osha, saying, hey, I was 4 when this choice was made. And it was kind of different for everybody. But overall, yeah, it was definitely an emotional episode, but I probably didn't take it as most did in terms of the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was long-winded. But David, what do you think?
Yeah, to answer Craig's question, if it was an emotional episode, it was an emotional episode, but I didn't really get that emotional about it. Maybe probably has to do with just the fact that, yeah, it is a short episode TV show. They really, I mean, to get an emotional response from me, they would have to really do something fairly in depth. I think a little bit longer. We talked about it in pre-show that we want hour-long episodes. We've been asking for that since the beginning, but I guess maybe that has to do with maybe just the fast paced and just we needed to get through the episode and just, we kind of knew that she lost her family and we kind of had to see that. And but yeah, it was emotional, but it really didn't move me that much. But
that's a good way to word it.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see the first 2 episodes on the big screen at the advanced screening. And that made me just really love the Acolyte because on the big screen it looks terrific. And kind of sidetracking here, adding to what we talked about in the pre-show, the things that we want is that we want these TV shows to be shown at the theater. That would be terrific because they hold up. They spend $180 million on the Acolyte. They could put these shows in the theater, and I think we would all go out to go see them.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe not charge like $15 or whatever they charge for a standard movie. Maybe do like a big like season pass type thing that includes maybe like a drink and popcorn or work something with the theater because I mean the strikes have had their influence. There's I think for a couple weeks now, during the summertime or the summer season, it's not actually summer yet, but there hasn't been that many new releases in the big time blockbusters. So I mean, this would fill that void. This would get people back in the theater. So
the struggle, I think, would be, it's 8 episodes. How long would that be? That would probably be like 5 hours. You know what I mean? If they were showing all the episodes, you know what I mean? So
yeah, if they cut the credits and the recaps and kind of stitched it together.
So that might be the problem there, where it's taking up too much time from showing other things.
Yeah. I mean, there are
You
deals with
know,
the studios that they got to show movies and stuff for a certain amount of time and certain amount of showings. I mean, you definitely don't want to interfere with that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe Disney will have their own theater chain, and this
Yeah.
is all kind of moot. But I think I gave the first 2 episodes 8.5 scores, and I think I'll give this one the same rating, an 8.5. I really liked it. Um, the nitpicks, I think, for the acting really didn't take me out of it. Wasn't that big a deal. I mean, to me, it's all about what the story was going to be tonight for this predicted controversial episode that I don't really think holds too much water. I mean, I think people that have just like problems in general with certain people and that type of thing are going to have issues with it. But otherwise, I mean, it's just adding to what Star Wars is, and it's just one of those other kind of side stories from the main Skywalker timeline that a lot of people say they want to get away from. That we got this interesting witch coven and this leader that could essentially use the Force, but they called it something different and they had different beliefs. It's just like humanity here on Earth. I mean, there's different religions, different beliefs. No matter where you go, I mean, in history, there's off the wall stuff that I think we would assume that it's just doesn't make sense, but it does to them. This is the same thing. So didn't have any issue with it. And I actually saw, I think last night on Twitter, there was a little bit of a leak about that. The fact that the twins were not born of a father, just a mother. So, and I mean, we've seen that through a lot of religions on Earth, and of course, we had the whole chosen one prophecy fulfilled with Anakin not having a father, or did he have a father? Was his father Palpatine? I don't know. Left a little ambiguous with the comics, but then again, I mean, the comics are
They
overridden
could get
by live
overwritten
action.
at
Yeah.
any moment.
Yeah. But I mean, I love that storyline though. It makes you think, and I think this episode is making us think a little bit. It was a little bit more outside of the box too, and they weren't necessarily. I mean, they could have taken. I think at least they could have taken more risks. I think with this episode, but they stayed within a boundary. I think, and I mean, I was kind of bracing myself to talk about some wild stuff tonight, but I mean, nothing too wild, nothing too out of mainline possible storylines that can happen with Star Wars. So overall, yeah, 8.5. I'm liking it. I mean, it's a B plus so far for everything that I've seen. We know that we're going to get more action in the future, so I'm hyped for that, and I think everyone is too. And the reveals, peeling back more of the onion. How did these witches die? We don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna find out. We're gonna get more flashbacks probably, and some crazy Wookiee action too. So,
anybody want to share their score before we wrap up? Nobody else? I'm surprised.
yeah, out there on chat. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, if you have a score, I think someone gave their score in the very beginning.
Yeah, like a 7.5.
Yeah, Jacob gave it a 3. Jacob didn't like it at all. So, yeah, I liked it. I think, I mean, it works for the show. And guys, we got to remember this is a TV show. This is totally designed by someone that is a Star Wars fan who's really up on the lore. EU. We've heard EU characters stuff's going to be pulled from there. So, yeah. And Roberts 479 on YouTube says 8.75. So that's higher than all of our scores. So, yeah. I totally dig that. So,
I don't know. I guess we're gonna see tomorrow what kind of backlash there is. I expect a lot. I don't think it's gonna be like Last Jedi, but I think that the people that are really unhappy with Disney already are going to be more unhappy. That's just my feeling.
No, Richard says a solid 4 at its best. Interesting.
Now, why a 4? Is it because you don't like the way the story is going? Because, like, I mean, for me, like, you gotta, I don't know, I would at least consider, like, the characters, do you not like Saul at all? You don't like any of these characters at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wonder what their thinking is for it. Was it the story? I mean,
Yeah, I'm curious too. What exactly is giving it a 4? Is it the acting, maybe? Because I know we've had a lot more comments than usual in regards to the acting. But of course, I mean, you got to factor in. I mean, they're kid actors. Probably the first thing they've ever done. I mean, they did. I think they did an adequate job. I'm not looking for the greatest children actors. But I mean, yeah, you got to look for someone that looks like Amanda Stenberg. I think that's going to narrow it down a whole lot.
now our friend Brian, who's a friend of the show, he was a little bit critical of last week. I think he gave the first 2 episodes like a 6.5, and he gave tonight's a 9, and he said he really liked it. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Big jump. Because he said he really liked it, and I said, "Wait a minute, how do you really like it and give it a 6.5? That's like a D-." Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some people say they really like some like TV shows and they give it like a 5. So I mean, yeah.
Oh, he said
And
the second time around he gave it an 8 after watching it the first time.
yeah, and I wanted to say, speaking of ratings, the Rotten Tomato score actually went higher. I think it went to like a 94% or something in regards to the show as a whole from the critic score. And of course, it's got like a 27% audience score, but apparently it's getting review bombed. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that it was getting bombed before the show came out. They should have something where you can't review it before it even comes out. I mean, that just
that's ridiculous. It makes no sense, but
they need to fix that. That should be an easy fix.
yeah, it should be very easy.
Like, you can't review the show till it comes out. If you want to bomb it afterwards, fine, but don't bomb it before it even comes out. You know?
Yeah, that needs to be changed for sure.
Is it possible that, and this is Brian saying this, May killed the witches? Maybe May was like, "You're not going to take her," or something.
Right, and she released like a Force Unleashed type of like seismic explosion. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's possible too. But we need to know why Torben killed himself, why he committed suicide. I mean, they had something to do with it, you know?
Yeah.
Or do you think just the fact that they were just there that caused a chain reaction for everything to happen, and then he just couldn't live with that? And I don't know. That's a possibility.
Anybody got a theory?
My guess is that he regrets how hard the Jedi pushed to take Osha. Maybe, I mean, I wouldn't say they pushed insanely hard, but maybe they saw a lot of potential in her and thought it was a good idea, and then it blew up in their face. Maybe. Yeah, right. Yeah. Excuse me. But that's my instant thought.
Yeah, and on YouTube, and Robert states, I like it. It's new, it's fresh, something we haven't seen on screen before. With Star Wars, personally, I think there's so much to explore before the prequels on screen. Yes, we talked about it in the pre-show that we do for every episode of the Acolyte. There's a lot of stuff they can do for the High Republic era. If they just basically transfer the books to screen, I mean, that can fill up lots of seasons of Star Wars stuff.
They won't do that.
They probably won't, but
I mean, fans wanted like Mara Jade and all that stuff, and that didn't happen. So I don't think they're going to take High Republic stuff that probably isn't very popular. I know some people are going to scream at me, but probably not popular enough to consider adapting.
Yeah. But I think that's a hope from a lot of Star Wars fans, that they do take the books and they just adapt them and put them on screen. I mean, that's a lot of live action content right there that's at their disposal. They don't have to, I mean, search for someone, even though I like the fact that, yeah, Leslie Headland is creating something brand new. That's what she chose to do. But I mean, stuff is right there. You just make it live action. But All right. So, does anyone else have anything that they want to bring up in regards to episode 3?
No, I was worried, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah,
Tell
I
me.
was a little worried, but it went somewhere I didn't think it would, and that's not bad. But future episodes have a lot of potential to change how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, for everyone watching us, if you want to find us out there on the socials, we're on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Pod. We're also on X at Stuff Pod. You can find us on Threads at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Support us on Patreon. We have a lot of videos up there. We do commentaries of the Clone Wars. We did all of season 3 of the Bad Batch. We do random episodes. We do interviews. You can also find us on TikTok at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. You can email the podcast with your suggestions, your thoughts, your theories at starwarstuffpodcast@gmail.com. Whatever you want to send to us. Also, if you're not watching us on Facebook, we are there with a group and a podcast page. The Star Wars Stuff podcast group on Facebook was the very first thing that we did. And that's where I met Craig for the very first time.
I regretted it ever since.
Also, if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, give us 5 stars, write a review. Apple Podcasts is terrific. We rank pretty high on there. Thank you so much to everyone that listens to us there. Also on Spotify, they host us. They host the podcast, so you can give us 5 stars and give us a review there as well. So for Craig 5, Zach, my name is David, and we will see you next time for the pre-show for episode 4. And may the Force be with you,
And also with you.
Always.